hardest part about being at home on Zoom is that I don't get to look back. And so I got to take a second and take it in. Pretty amazing, pretty special. Okay, so to start off with today, I wanted you to picture a scenario. So say an acquaintance or somebody maybe that you don't know very well says, hey, I'm going to this party tonight. Come meet me there. You're totally welcome. It's going to be a blast. And you show up at the party, and everybody's just sitting down to eat. And the host is like, oh, if I would have known you were coming, we would have had enough food for you. Sorry, we don't have any food for you. And you're like, that's okay. I'll just go ahead and grab a seat and hang out. Oh, if I would have known you were coming, we would have had a seat ready for you, but we don't have any extra seats either. So sorry. Like, okay, that's okay. Can I just maybe use the restroom? And this is where the analogy gets a little wacky, but, and the host is like, well, yes, as long as you're either shorter than 3 feet tall or you're over 6'6", because otherwise the bathroom just can't accommodate you. Like, so are you still feeling like you're really welcome? Yeah. And so I bring that analogy just because that's something that happens like in Centers for Spiritual Living sometimes. We are a very inviting community. Everybody's welcome, and we mean it. But then sometimes maybe somebody shows up at, depending on where you're at in the world, which CSL you're at the center, and they're in a wheelchair, and there's no adequate ramp to get in. And then maybe we find a way to get them in, and then they get into the restroom, and there's not enough support bars. Or, just other little subtle things that just say, you're welcome as long as you can, contort into our little box of what we do here. And so this month, today's the last day, wrapping up the Unstatus Quo, we're just looking at this idea of disability and wholeness. The songs, the meditation, it brings it all together that when we constantly talk about our wholeness, our spiritual wholeness, but sometimes that can kind of give an idea out that wholeness means perfection. Remember last month we did, perfectly imperfect. Perfection is all the imperfections that we are. And so wholeness isn't the lack of impairments or the lack of different type of abilities. Wholeness includes that. Every single thing that we are, that you are, it is all part of the infinite, the divine. There is nothing outside of that. So every single aspect of every single person, every quality and trait that you have, at this very moment, it's perfect. It's what it was supposed to be. And I love Eckhart Tolle for this because he says this quote frequently where he says, everything right now in this moment is exactly perfect. And how do you know that? Because it is what is. It can't be anything else. And so taking today to kind of address and focus on people that are differently abled, to let us all know, to reflect on our infinite magnificence that we are, and take that richness in, because that is how we each bring our own unique flavor to this vanilla, chocolate, sundae, strawberry, pineapple thing of life, that we are just all very essential exactly the way we are. And so we want to make sure that we reflect that in the way that we create welcoming space for one another, in the way that we recognize and encourage more and more conversation and acknowledgement of people right where they're at. So today, we were reminded that Ernest Holmes tells us that we are infinite children of the divine, and that everybody is worthy of integrity, respect, dignity, and that's shared together. And it all ties together. What is important to one person or what one person's individual challenges may be, I can reflect on that and learn and grow from myself. And so when we do our spiritual mind treatment, when we say that this person is whole, perfect, and complete, that means exactly as they are. We so frequently, in the Centers for Spiritual Living, and I'm drawing this from me, we get very centered in what our reality is, and we kind of place that on everybody else. And we just think, what's true for me must be true for everybody. But that couldn't be farther from the truth, because we are, just like fingerprints, no two people exactly the same. So it's not the lack of impairment that means perfect. It's because of the individual impairments, because of the individual qualities that make us different from one another, that creates our whole interaction. On the individual level, on the collective level, we are a conglomeration of different qualities, traits, abilities, disabilities, all of it. And so whatever your body is, like, we are spiritual infinite beings having this temporary physical existence in order to experience the sensations of being in the physical world. Like, what a gift it is, when you have like a bite of cheesecake that just blows your mind. Like, in our spiritual infinite being that we are, we can know that, but until you sit down and you taste it in the physical body, that's the gift that we're here to receive. And believe it or not, the pain that we feel, that's part of the gift too. All of it. Because it's what builds us into who we are. It's what reminds us of what we come from. And it's what connects us, because everybody feels pain. Everybody feels joy. Some more than others. Maybe it's been a while since you've felt joy. If it's been a while, I want to encourage you. Expand your circle of who you are with. Expand your knowledge of one another. I'm going to have a kind of a call to action at the end of this today that's going to, if you take it up on it, and if you haven't seen this movie I'm going to refer to, it is something that, for me, it brought more perspective into just recognizing how magnificent we all are. It's one of those, I don't want to jump ahead too far, but it's something that, it brings the tears of joy when you can recognize the soul within another person, when you can recognize the heart and the joy, the beautiful voices that transmit wonderful messages. That's the richness of what we're here for. So on the individual level, we're all there. On our communal level. So while it's important to support individuals with disabilities and being a space where we can share together, where we take our classes, where we discover our wholeness and recognize that we have so much wonder and beauty within us, that any sort of disability or something that we would say is an imperfection, when we do our spiritual work, we can learn to recognize it's exactly perfect how it is. It doesn't mean that we can't think about how we move forward. It doesn't mean that we can't have good days, or more good days than bad days, as the song said that Colette shared with us. That's the purpose of what we're here for, is this physical world to demonstrate and find the joy in that richness. It's easy to get hung up on, like one negative thing holds the weight of like 5 positive things. And it's easy, that's when we're not mindful. That's when we're kind of just on autopilot. And so when we can transform all those things, all those challenges that we individually feel, into a strength and an attribute and a gift, again, of experiencing that joy and experiencing the pain, of exploring and experiencing that full spectrum, then even the tough moments become a moment of joy, become a moment of celebration. It takes effort to remind us. It takes effort when we're in our challenged spaces to say, this too is a gift. And I'm still working on it. I encourage you to continue working on it, because it's a process, but that's what we're here for. And so that's what I revel in. So while we can recognize and help people see their wholeness, it's also important to be mindful and create more spaces. Last month was, July is Disability Pride Month. And I was like looking into like, what's a disability pride flag that maybe we can get and put out and say, you're welcome here. I held off this time because I don't know that our building is 100% ADA compliant. I don't know. I know it's not 100%. I know we've taken some steps, a lot of steps that happened before I'm here. And so I have to take, what's that? There you go, functional, not compliant. And so it's something that we can work towards. And that's though why I was hesitant, and that blame falls on me, that I haven't been more proactive. You know, like I could always use another project. Like, well, but we need it. You know, it's important to make people know that not only are you welcome here, we've thought about you. We've thought about like different possibilities, and that's another constant work in progress. Constant work in progress, but setting that intention and taking meaningful steps to actually implement is where we shift the world. And again, I always want to remind ourselves, and really this is reminding myself, we go easy on ourselves. It's a challenging world out there, and there's a lot of struggle, there's a lot of division, and the last thing we need is shaming and blaming when somebody maybe drops the ball. These things happen. It's a learning process, and that's what we're here, again, in this world to do, is to learn how magnificent we are. So when we see the opportunities to say, yes, I can step up and I can help in this situation, or I can help make this person feel welcome right now. Little tiny things are not little tiny things. They're really not. That is what makes the world worth living. It's what makes that richness. And so how we address and work with the marginalized populations is so important, because there's people that receive messages that say, you're welcome, but maybe tone down that one aspect of yourself while you're here. Or, just try to blend in, fit in, but you need to alter that little thing about yourself. How do we become just more and more welcoming, recognizing when anybody is not feeling welcome, is anybody welcome? And then instead, on the flip, recognizing that when we welcome more people in, when we get to know somebody that we didn't know, when we get to meet people of a different population or a marginalized group, or like wherever we are, maybe you're in a marginalized group and you get to meet somebody else in a different group. Just every time you meet somebody new and you learn a different experience, you expand. And in this physical world that we're here to do that, we do that together. So when I see somebody advocating for somebody else, I'm over here, I've expanded. Consciousness has expanded its experience. It is infinite, but until it manifests in this physical world, it's just potential. And so, whatever you deem, whatever word you use, I like to use the word God or spirit, but I know for a lot of people that's challenging. It might conjure images, traumatic images from a child. A lot of people like the word nature, or the infinite source of all, or just reality. It doesn't matter what we call it, because it is everything. You can't take away from it. You can't hurt its feelings. You can't disrespect it, because you are it. And so when you question it, that's how you expand it. And so that's our call, is to reach out, meet somebody, talk to people, make more welcoming spaces for one another. And yes, people with disabilities, but all marginalized groups. If there's somebody that you don't know, I'm getting way ahead of myself because I've got two different quotes. This one right here comes in right perfect for this. What I was trying to say is what Yvonne Pierre said: when you focus on someone's disability, you'll overlook their abilities, beauty, and uniqueness. Once you learn to accept and love them for who they are, you subconsciously learn to love yourself unconditionally. Yeah, oops. That is the beauty of spirit, is all these things that I talk about. I hear myself, and I sometimes hear myself in my head like, oh my God, you're so preachy. So preachy. This is what I'm working on. I'm not up here saying I've got it all figured out, and this is how I live every second of every day. But this is what I'm working on, and the beauty of the universe is when you do this stuff, when you overlook somebody's disability, not necessarily even overlook it, just recognize it and just see what it is. But when you look past like the things that we have in common, because that goes for disabilities, but it also goes for those marginalized groups. If we just focus on the one thing that kind of gets our hackles up, we miss all the other wonderful attributes of people. So when we can get past that and recognize the wonderful qualities, we feel better. That's the beauty of how spirit works, is like we get personal rewards when we expand who we are, when we expand and welcome people in. And it doesn't matter like where you are. There's always, remember the first week of this month on Status Quo, we talked about othering. There's always others. There's me, and then those people that are wrong. Those people. That's my call. The people that challenge you, that's your call of where you need to expand. That's how the universe works. It pokes you where you need attention. And when you do it, it benefits you. And like this quote says here, subconsciously, when you're judging others, you're judging yourself. Because if somebody else can be wrong, that means you can be wrong. And so whether you know it or not, unconsciously, you feel like you're wrong. And that's why you'll see a lot of people that feel like they're wrong, that are quick to point out everybody else's. Because if somebody's looking over at them, they're not looking at me. So the benefit of growing and expanding who you consider your circle of love benefits yourself. It's a win-win situation. Society grows and gets more kind, and you get more kind on yourself, and you get more friends. More friends are good. Friends are good. Now here's a really long quote, but this one came from the Global Theme, and I really enjoyed this one. This is from the Science of Mind magazine reprint from Ernest Holmes. I'm going to read it, so bear with me. It says, positive thinking does not mean aggressiveness or the use of willpower, but rather a dynamic, affirmative attitude toward life. The power and creativity that reside by nature in our thought are directed through the process of a prayer of faith, which is based in the conviction that there must be a wholeness back of everything. Constructive, affirmative thinking leads us to that wholeness and faith. And that wholeness is our key to the fruits of its actions. Whole lot of words. But it's nothing that we need to force. I like where it referred to, where is it now? Man, that is a long quote. It referred to life. Where am I? Okay, there it is. Affirmative attitude toward life. I use the word life with a capital L frequently for that synonym for whatever you want to call spirit or whatever. It's just that life force. And so we don't need to force anything through willpower. We embrace and invite spirit to work through us, and then it does. So I'm going to finish with the call to action after this. The spiritual principle is we believe in the individualization of the Spirit in us, and that all people are individualizations of the one Spirit. Everybody. We are all that Spirit. Especially, well, not especially, but for me, those that challenge me the most, that is my growth. That is where it's easy to love one another that we get along with. And that's what we're here to do, is to love one another. But the challenge is to do the ones that you don't get along with. That's our goal. That's what the master teacher Jesus taught. That's what the Buddha taught. It's in all faiths, religions, there's the golden rule. Do unto others as they would do unto you. It might be worded differently, but that's what Ernest Holmes talked about when he tried to synthesize this philosophy, is that the golden thread of truth. There's a few things that are congruent in all religions, all faiths, and philosophies. The golden rule being one of them. What you put out there, it comes back to you. That's how the universe works. So then our spiritual practice this week comes from Ram Dass. So as often as you can this week, and especially when somebody challenges you, or you're reading the news and somebody rubs you the wrong way there, whatever, whenever something comes up that just kind of gets you a little constricted, remind yourself, this person wants peace, just like me. This person wants happiness, just like me. This person bleeds, just like me. This person feels joy, just like me. And then ending it with, I wish this person to be well. I wish this person to have their best. When anybody lives up to their spiritual potential, if we can pray and know that somebody lives their highest and best, it will work for everybody, because that's how spirit works. It's when we think that we know more than spirit that we cause problems. And we think, like, oh, I got to fight to get that. Spirit's like, no, you don't. There's a way that you can have that, and that this other person gets their perfect thing with it. A win-win. We were born on this infinite earth with all the resources we could ever need. And so we need to remember, when we work together, when we love one another, we have more than enough. So just throughout this week, if you're on board with this, because we try to do a spiritual practice every week, find the ones that work for you and repeat those. But it's always good to try and experiment with others too. But not everyone will resonate with you. But if this one does, throughout the week, just remind yourself, this person, just like me, wants the same things that I want. We really do. That's one thing that I am convinced about in the political world, is that we have this desire to take care of our own. We love our family, and I will die for them. And then we have our extended family, or we say our chosen family, that we choose to invite into spending lots of our time with. It gets so dry when I talk. But when we extend that family into more and more groups, I think we all say, I want the best for my family. It's just sometimes, especially like in spiritual circles, we extend and grow who we say our family is. And so when we recognize more people, more marginalized groups, or groups that are different than us, or those others as part of our family, we expand, and it creates a vibration, because everything is in consciousness. And so when we hold, I disagree with that person, but I recognize the divine in them, and I recognize their right to hold different opinions, and I'm still going to speak up for what I believe in, and maybe we can create that win-win again with anybody. So throughout this week, I wish that person to be happy. Their highest and best is my highest and best. It is everybody's highest and best. That's the only way that it could be. So with that, we've got an affirmation. So go ahead and join me in saying this. I recognize the wholeness of myself and everyone I meet. Let's repeat that. I recognize the wholeness of myself and everyone I meet. So the call then to action this week is a movie called Crip Camp. It's on Netflix right now. Unbelievable movie. Unbelievable. It's a documentary about the passing of the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. It took over 20 years of activists to get this passed. This is the resistance to change. This is the resistance to equity and recognizing that somebody's needs aren't being met. What can we do to help meet it? And I think it would be hard. I imagine it would be hard pressed to find people nowadays that would say, oh, the ADA is a horrible thing. Should have never happened. Because now we recognize, like, you can go to a concert in a wheelchair. You can, at some centers for spiritual living, you can show up and they might be somebody that's doing American Sign Language from the stage to help somebody that is hearing impaired be able to appreciate the service. So anyway, Crip Camp, I highly, highly recommend watching this movie. It was Reverend Dr. Peggy Hostetler, who in Orlando is my minister up there, that she was so adamant about making, because that center, that building in Orlando it's like 80 years old, and it's not ADA compliant. And she's like, we are not welcoming. And it came up pretty much at every board meeting. When are we getting the ramp? And it was like $35,000 just for the ramp to get in the building. And then there was no bathrooms that were able to be, I think they're still working on it because it was like going to be a lot of money. And that was, I think, a lot of the resistance to the ADA in the first place. Well, we just can't afford it. Everybody's going to go out of business if we have to, be accommodating. But we find ways. We find ways. And so it's just a matter of shifting who we recognize, how we stand up for one another, which I had a note that I wanted to address in here. It's little subtle things with the marginalized groups that go a long way. And we've got a lot of healing to do, a lot of growing and coming together to do. And a couple weeks ago when I was speaking on Zoom, I made a faux pas, or I don't know if that's the right word. I made a misstep. And I was speaking about generational trauma and how descendants of people that were enslaved in the United States, generations beyond, still feel that trauma. We still have a lot of healing to do. But where I made my misstep, and this wasn't the first time it happened, but where I made the misstep is I referred to people as slaves. First time I did this was at our CSL convention in Charleston, South Carolina this year. And I was sharing something in a group probably about the same size, and I did that. I referred to early African Americans as slaves, and somebody stood up and said, ouch. I'm like, oh, what did I do? And she's like, would you please not refer to my ancestors as slaves? They were people who were enslaved. It's a subtle difference, subtle. And to most of us that don't have that generational trauma, at least from that side, because there is generational trauma on the other side too, but it may not sound like it's that important to some of us, but to that person, it was. And to a lot of people, it was. And so I want to encourage us. Sometimes it's hard with all the PC stuff, all the things that people are requesting. Can you please refer to me as this? Use these pronouns. It challenges lots of people, but it's such an easy, small accommodation that means so much to some people. Little tiny steps to recognize we are all one. And I'm here for you, and you're here for me, and we can disagree, but I'm here for you, and I will know the truth about you. You are infinite and divine, and we are doing this together. Like as Ram Dass said, the book that it was from, is we are all just walking each other home. Amen. So with that being said, let's do this affirmation one more time, and then we'll take it within. So I recognize the wholeness of myself and everyone that I meet. So I invite you just to however you'd like to settle in and just open up in your heart space, in your mind. Recognize your wholeness. You are infinite. You are the divine. You are the universe in every single cell. All thought, all mind, all consciousness is within each and every individual, and we get to express the parts of it in this finite physical world that we are in, choosingly and intentionally. So I affirm and avow that every single person I meet in the universe, every single person I bump into is that infinite and divine. and I let go of any thoughts of others, because there are no others. There is only the one that I am, that everybody is. So as we move forward, may that love and light guide us. May that desire to expand our individual circles grow. As we let more people in, we feel more pain. But we also feel more joy. And it's worth it. The joy makes it all worth it. It's that richness, that diversity, that tapestry of our experiences and the people around us that enrich and expand us into one another's hearts and space. So I know that right now, anyone who's breathing has the life force flowing through them, and that there is this constant desire to connect, affirm, celebrate our differences, and lift one another up from a place of perfect understanding of the various gifts, traits, things that we may call disabilities or differences that actually make us exactly perfect as we are. So as I go forward this week, I remind myself, and Spirit reminds me, that everyone that challenges me to grow is an expression of the divine. And just like me, they want peace. Just like me, they want love. Just like me, they want joy. So I wish that highest and best for everyone. I wish everyone to find their unique voice. I wish everybody to express and find their unique desires. I know that in the mind of Spirit, as we speak the words, as we hold the thoughts, Spirit is already making it so. The creative mechanism of the universe, the law, I give gratitude for, because it is always creating on our behalf, and we are shifting into this world that works for everyone. One thought at a time, one action, one welcoming gesture. It is all Spirit in action. Each and every one of us are that, and for that I am grateful. So may everyone on their individual journey reach out and shine that light to one another, be that beacon that says, I see you, I judge you not. And so because of that, I don't judge myself. I recognize myself as an expression of the divine, and everything that I am is perfect as it is, and always, always seeking more and more expression, love, connection, and being. So we affirm that together by saying, and so it is. So it is.